I want to start with BYU and Utah because finally I feel like we have a little bit of clarity when it comes to the starting quarterback at BYU. Well, we've always known it was going to be Jaren Hall. But the interesting thing is that today is Thursday, and Whit promised us that we would find out what we already know, that Charlie Brewer is the starting quarterback at Utah. And it's finally come to a point where you have these quarterbacks being named because we're like a week away from the season. I got to tell you, Jake, football's back, and we needed it desperately.
Yeah, I mean, we needed the entertainment. We needed it back in our life, especially with the meltdowns that happen seemingly on a daily basis at Casa de Monte lately. So it's nice to have football back in the fold. You know, it feels like it's been a little while, and I think that, you know, with this whole starting quarterback situation, whether you look at the NFL or you look at BYU and Utah, I think that the dynamic of announcing your starting quarterback is always this game that gets played every single year. And some years, like this year, you already know who it's going to be. You know, with all due respect to, you know, Baylor Romney, he was never going to be the starting quarterback of, you know, for BYU. It was always going to be Jaren Hall, and I think that a lot of people knew that. And I just think it's funny that we got to wait till a week before the season to know that that's the case. You know, much like what's happening with the 49ers or any of these other programs. It's just funny to me that, you know, we got to make Trevor Lawrence earn it. We got like Trevor Lawrence hasn't had to earn a damn thing. He was always going to be the starting quarterback. There was never a doubt. Like, you know, let's not beat around the bush with that. So, in terms of who has the better quarterback situation or who's in a better position, I think that's a really interesting question to answer because I think that question and the answer to that question is largely predicated on schedule. You know, if you said, hey, BYU's got a really tough schedule, you know, and they're probably not going to win more than 7 games, you know, then I'm left to say, well, Jaren Hall has got a lot of work to do. You know, he's got a lot of work to do to get these guys to a bowl game, which is always the goal for BYU. Whereas if you look at Utah and you look at the Pac-12 and you look at what Charlie Brewer's got to work with, I think the road is probably slightly easier for them. They're also slightly more talented. So who has the better QB situation? I think I probably would rather be BYU, but at the end of the day, we'll kind of see how that plays out in the win-loss column.
Oh, I don't think there's any question that BYU has had more stability. I actually think up on the hill at the U, I mean, you had Cam Rising was pushing Charlie Brewer. I don't think there's any doubt. I don't know that the coaching staff at Utah ever had a notion of starting Cam Rising, but I think it's a tip of the cap to Cam because I truly believe Charlie Brewer had that job won the minute he stepped on the field at spring football. From all accounts, he was unbelievable in the locker room, preparation, meetings. Like, he handled the quarterback situation at Utah like a pro. But when you talk about who's got the better situation, I don't know how you have a better quarterback situation than Utah or BYU. I think it's very close. I'd probably shade to Utah because Cam's got experience as a starter. Remember, he won the job last year before he got injured. But the athletic ability that is in Provo right now in the quarterback room, I mean, it is really, I mean, it may be the best room they've had in, I mean, at least a decade. I mean, I don't remember during Broncos time that BYU ever had a better quarterback situation than they do now. And I think, obviously, with the athlete that Jaren Hall is, he really is the prototypical guy that you want under center calling your plays and running your offense because he can move, he can help your offensive line, he makes your running backs better. And they actually have a very deep and talented wide receiver core at BYU as well, which makes Jaren Hall better. This offense should be, at BYU, this offense really should be primed to kind of pick up the ball from last year and keep moving it down the field. Like, you feel like there's not going to be much of a step back. Now, don't get me wrong. Zach Wilson was spectacular last year. It's why he was the number 2 pick in the draft. So you're going to have a tough time replicating that kind of success. But I think you have a guy in Jaren Hall who's capable of not filling Zach Wilson's shoes, but creating his own path and being successful as a quarterback on his own, where he doesn't have to live up to the standard, in the very high standard that Zach Wilson set for BYU. So to me, Jake, I think I lean a little bit total quarterback room package ability to win big games, I probably lean a little bit towards Utah, but I don't think BYU has anything bad to feel about.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think the biggest thing here is like, yeah, you're right. Total package, you probably have more overall talent sitting in the Utah room, but I think for BYU, Jaren Hall has a lot of ability. I'm not sitting here saying he's the best quarterback in the nation, certainly, but the guy can run. He can throw it with anybody, and I think that he's ready. And that's the biggest thing to me that BYU faces every single year, even with Zach Wilson. There were times where early on in his time at BYU, you were like, is this guy ready? Is this guy, 100% good to go? And then you saw how quickly he got better and matured and really kind of took over the team. So that's what I'll be looking for in the first couple weeks for BYU. Is Jaren Hall, really leading this team, or is he just kind of the guy playing the position? And the same for Utah. I feel like, with Charlie Brewer, that's one of the things I've always liked about Charlie is that, coming from Baylor, a big-time program, he's going to have no problem leading the football team. That side of the quarterback position is super important, and Charlie Brewer's not going to have any issue with that, which is why I think for the first time, and I'd have to go digging for the last time Utah had a really solid person at playing quarterback.
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt Charlie Brewer's the bar.
I don't know that there's anybody better before him.
Yeah.
So to me, if you're Utah and you're a Utah fan, you should be really excited about winning the South this year. That should be the goal. There shouldn't be any other bar besides that, and anything less than that to me is just unacceptable.
Well, and I look at Tyler Huntley. That's the guy that comes to mind for me. Obviously he was a dynamic quarterback at Utah, and when you're first team All Pac-12, you're a really good football player. So don't get me wrong, but I think that Charlie Brewer has the ability. Now, will he do that? I don't know. He has the ability, and he's shown the in-game ability in sense to play at a higher level of football than Tyler Huntley did for Utah.
Yeah.
And if that happens, I think you're in a really good spot. And then again, that's why I turn back to BYU. You're trying to replace arguably the best quarterback that you've had in the modern era of BYU football. Now, did he win a Heisman or a national championship? No, that didn't happen. But when I look at the Taysom Hills of the world, if you look at just the guys who in the last, just from Bronco forward, let's say, you look at those quarterbacks, Zach Wilson's easily the best in that group. And I think now when you look at where Jaren Hall is, he has the opportunity and the athletic ability to surpass that and at least be as good as Zach was. Zach Wilson had a huge impact on the field. He was the offense at times.
Yeah.
Is that still what you're going to get? That's a big question.
Yeah.
To me. And I think both for Charlie Brewer at Utah and Jaren Hall at BYU, we need to see these guys on the field doing the job.
Yeah.
And this is no different, by the way, than Keaton Slovis, who probably, SC's never had more expectations with Clay Helton than they have now. And I look at Keaton Slovis, he's got a lot of the load to carry. There's a lot of quarterbacks throughout college football in that spot. It's the guys that you believe can develop those quarterbacks. I don't know that Clay Helton and his staff can do that. I don't know, frankly. Let's see what A-Rod and Kalani can do with Jaren Hall. That to me, that's a huge question as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, Zach Wilson put a lot of off-field effort into becoming one of the premier quarterbacks in college football. Having said that, Jaren Hall's done the exact same thing, working with John Beck and really trying to become a dynamic, all-around impact player at quarterback. He has the opportunity to do that. He's going to get at least 2 full seasons. If he's successful and stays healthy, he'll get at least 2 full seasons as a starter in Provo. And with this schedule, you would think that they're going to be in some really good television windows based on who they're playing and where they're playing. I think the upside is massive for BYU right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, that developmental point you were making about, taking your guy and making him better and really improving his game as the season goes on. I think it's a great point, and I think the other thing that is interesting with the Charlie Brewer situation is knowing the system and being comfortable in the system, and really having that relationship with your wide receivers and your tight ends and your skill position guys. Because as great as it is, I love the fact that he's coming from Baylor. There's no getting around the fact that this being your first year in the program, there's definitely a learning curve, and so I think for Charlie, it'll be interesting to see. Come 10 days from now when you kick off the regular season, what does that first series look like? Is the offense in rhythm? Does Charlie look like he knows what he's doing? Is he comfortable? Are they constantly, one of the telltale signs that quarterbacks are not comfortable and not in sync with the offense is if the play clock is constantly running out.
I'm sorry, did you say the play clock?
No, I didn't.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I just wanted to.
Are you sure?
I just wanted to clarify.
Okay.
Because I'm a big fan of the play cock. But
are you?
Anyway, the point is, listen. I think these two starting quarterbacks are going to be fabulous. There's no doubt about that. Let's see what the comment section says. Is it going to last this time? Well, we tried. Cody Strickland says, system crashed again. Yeah, it did. Gabe Ledley says, and we're back. Morning, fellas. What's up? Gabe, good to see you. Tanner Plummer says, Arizona is doing a 2 QB system, which means you have no QBs. I am not a fan of that at all. Yeah, exactly. What do you guys think? I'm not a fan of that at all.
Nah.
Spencer Morgan, what's up, Spence? He says, let's not overstate Cam Rising's experience as a starter. Yeah, that was, A, it was not long last, and B, it was not very good.
Yeah.
If you remember, I mean, he didn't, I don't know that he made it out of the quarter. Cam Rising got hurt. He was done for the year after sputtering a little bit, but, it is what it is. That's why I think Charlie Brewer was such a huge get for the Utes. I mean, last year was just incredibly odd with COVID and are we playing, we're not playing, oh, we're going to play, okay, cool. And, I mean, you never had QB1 up on the hill last year. You didn't. And now I think with Charlie Brewer, you have a guy that you're going to hand the football to, and as long as he's healthy, he's going to be your quarterback. I think the world of the guy, watching his game tape, and I know that, he doesn't have the biggest arm in the world, and people would – people at Baylor would tell you that he was just okay. The tape I've seen of him on YouTube and the highlights of him, are pretty good. If you're a Ute fan, you should be excited because they've actually got dynamic talent as well, which you would expect, in a Coach Whittingham team in the Pac-12. But I'm really excited about Charlie.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you're saying, and I just think that the only question that's left is come, snap one in this first game. What is their starting line? Is their starting line, we're all very comfortable with each other, we all know the system, we all know what we need to do? Or is their starting line, hey, we're going to make some mistakes in the first game where, there's going to be, some turnovers, there's going to be some miscommunication. Yeah. You know what I mean? Does Charlie think, wide receiver one's going left when he should be going right? Like, those are the things that you should be looking for in both of these situations, by the way, because it's not as though Jaren's going to be an expert. We have to see where he's at as well. So those are the things, once you announce your quarterback, whether you're, Trevor Lawrence with the Jaguars or you're Jaren Hall or Charlie Brewer, those are the things that I look for. Where's everybody at in cohesiveness? Because that's ultimately, if you think about it, that's ultimately what brings you success in football. Like having the rhythm down, having the timing down. That's how you complete passes. That's how you have a dynamic passing game. So
well, and I look across the Pac-12, and it'll be interesting to see where Charlie Brewer falls in. I mean, is he going to be is he ever going to be a Keaton Slovis? No, I would doubt that. But is he a Dylan Morris? Is he, if you look at, Jaden Delora is an interesting name. Like Jaden Delora, is one of the most talented quarterbacks in the country, but you don't know what you have there. Whereas you go down to Berkeley and, you have Chase Garbers and you feel like, now I think Charlie Brewer is better than Chase Garbers, in my opinion. I think he's better. I'd rather have Charlie Brewer than Jaden Daniels. Everybody raves about Jaden Daniels at ASU, and we've seen that firsthand. He's an incredible athlete. He does not strike me as a guy that's going to win you the conference and take you to the promised land.
Yeah.
I don't. Maybe I'm too critical of him.
I think Jaden Daniels has a lot of development needed physically. I think he's a really small guy in terms of just stature. I don't remember his height, but weight wise,
he weighs 36 pounds.
Yeah, I mean he's a tiny guy weight wise. So.
I said he weighs 36 pounds.
Right. Yeah.
With his equipment on.
Right. We get it. He doesn't bench. We understand.
He needs to eat fettuccine. Anyway, I'll stop now. The point is, if I'm Utah, I feel pretty good about my quarterback.
Yeah.
And I think that is something that in a league that prides itself on great quarterback play, as the Pac-12 does, and with the hype that is, I think, surrounding guys like Dylan Morris, I think it's going to be interesting to see what Washington has. What about Anthony Brown at Oregon? That's somebody that, there's a lot of people that are really excited about, Oregon's offense, and everybody thinks Oregon's going to win the North, and it's going to be Oregon and Utah, or, frankly, I think there's a lot of hype around a lot of these quarterbacks, and the only guy, in my opinion, that's really proven to be able to do what the hype says he does is Keaton Slovis at SC.
Yeah.
I mean, other than that, we haven't seen a lot of guys, play at the top of their game yet. I just think that, again, Charlie Brewer arguably is the most impactful quarterback transfer in the conference. I mean, there is, I think I could make the argument that it's in all of college football. I mean, that is, if everything breaks right, and again, when we compare BYU to Utah, which we probably should never do again, but if everything breaks right for Utah, that's a team that's playing for a national championship, right?
Yeah, I mean, they were in the conversation, what was that, 2 seasons ago?
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, it's not outlandish to say that, but at the same time, you got to go out and do it. So that's just where you're left.
Yeah, and I think, I just think that Jaden Daniels has so much to prove.
I think the whole program does. I mean, all we've ever heard out of this incarnation of Sun Devil football is that this is a great team, and you've brought in a whole new coaching staff and players, and you've done the fundraising and boosters, and everything's awesome. But what have you really done? I mean, nothing. I
mean, the guy, as far as Jaden himself goes, I would agree with that. I think Herm came in with great fanfare. I recall us talking about it at the time, that his age was going to be a factor, and he kind of bulletproofed that by hiring some of the hottest recruiting young gun assistant coaches in the game. Sorry, did I wake you? But the point is...
Yeah, I'm tired.
Good morning.
Like, what? What do you want me to say?
The point is... you yawn like every day.
Yeah, I do.
You should go to bed earlier. I'm kidding. We kind of did stay up later last night.
Yeah, dude. Like, I mean, it's not to derail the conversation, but I'm not running from it. Yeah, I'm tired some mornings, for sure.
Well, we shouldn't have stayed up, and you were at our place till like 9 last night because we were watching Catfish.
Yeah, I had to watch some girl get catfished by some douche from YouTube.
Her name is Diamond, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. EBT baby got trolled by white plastic. All right, cool, dude. Yeah,
why did you? Your first name's Vincent, and you named yourself White Plastic?
Let me get this right. You live in L.A., right?
Miami,
L.A. Not sure. Don't know.
No, they live in Miami, which is right next to LA, so I understand how you could get.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, some of them said, "Oh, he's in LA," and then other ones are saying, "Oh, he's in Miami." I don't know, dude. Like my biggest takeaway from Catfish, if y'all watch Catfish, is like, dude, these people don't have a life. They say they have a life, but do you really have a life if all you're doing is like ruining people's lives?
No. And you enjoy ruining people's lives. Yeah. If you don't watch Catfish, you're missing out. I mean, the freak show that are people's lives on that program it's amazing. Anyway, my point on Jaden Daniels is the kid needs to gain some weight, and he needs to learn to do something other than throw explosive passes, because he does. I mean, he goes over the top often. I mean, the guy has got a great arm.
Yeah.
But I feel like you're constantly waiting, for him to develop into a total package of a quarterback. you feel like he's been there since he was 12.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like Jaden Daniels has been at ASU forever.
Is this his junior year or his sophomore year? Does it say?
This would be his junior year. He was a freshman in 2019.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
yeah. So it's time. I mean, it's time for him to start getting traction and making movement.
Yeah. I mean, he has to continue to limit turnovers, which he's done a decent job of. But he's just not an accurate passer. I mean, that to me is the biggest, hole in his game is that he has got to complete 65-70% of his passes.
Yeah.
And until he does that,
and the bar on that continues to get raised every single year.
Yeah, and I think that's why Slovis is so head and shoulders above everybody else in the Pac-12 with quarterback play, just because he is. Even last year, and last year was not a great year for anybody, let's be honest, because of the way that they mismanaged the COVID protocols and the scheduling in the Pac-12.
The coronavirus.
I mean, it was really a difficult year, but I think you can rely on Keaton Slovis. I don't know that I can say you can rely on Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
I don't know. And my personal opinion is Dorian Thompson-Robinson at UCLA is an interesting guy. I mean, again, to be under 10 yards per attempt in the Pac-12 is kind of scary.
Yeah.
But he is a guy that has he has the total package. He's just wildly inconsistent.
Isn't that true though about Pac-12 football? Doesn't it always seem like, like you're always trying to really push down the field? Yeah, I feel like I can remember 2 years ago when Stanford was playing Oregon and they were just going up and down the field. Like it was like a 50-point game each, and that's what I feel like some of these Pac-12 games turn into, and that's also why I feel like what makes Utah so different. Utah doesn't typically find themselves in 50-point affairs,
Yeah, but that's Chip Kelly's offense at UCLA too. I mean, he's one of those guys that I think they scored 36 points a game last year.
It's a lot, dude.
So, but my point is, you're scoring 36 points a game and your quarterback's under 10 yards, per attempt.
Yeah.
And I mean, that for him, 8.6 yards is good.
Yeah.
So you just want to see more development. So anyway, all of this to say, I look at the quarterbacks. I think Charlie Brewer has a chance to be one of the top, 2 or 3 quarterbacks in this conference pretty easily, based on what he showed us at Baylor. I mean, he's a guy that, 63.5% completion last, in his final year in Waco. Like, I mean, he's a guy that can run. Obviously everybody talks about him as a passer. Charlie Brewer is mobile.
Yeah.
22 rushing touchdowns. I mean, that's pretty good.
He's got a pretty solid skill set overall. I mean, the last thing you want is a guy at quarterback who's limited, who can't run, who's kind of a statue.
Well, you don't start 4 years at Baylor.
Yeah.
Basically 4 years at Baylor. You don't start 4 years at Baylor and not be talented.
Good. Yeah.
I mean, to me, that's the thing that if you're a Utah fan, that's what you should be excited about. So I'm really excited about it. I think, I think it'll be interesting to see how all of this plays. By the way, everybody agrees with me that you said play cock 100%.
Okay.
It is what it is.
Brylark said Jake 1,000% said play cock.
I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. I'm fried.
Gabe Ledley says Jake 100% said play cock.
Gabe, please.
I mean,
sometimes I think I just say shit. Sample what comes out of my mouth.
I mean, I there's nobody that likes to play cock more than you. I don't know why you're running from it. Okay.
I have no idea what that was.
Neither do I. Sean Mirzinski says, my sister went to high school with JT. I just don't think he's the right fit at USC. What am I missing? Tanner Plummer says, Arizona State's going to play to win the game. Yes, they are. Josh Levern says, UW has Morris, but their best QB is... but I thought Sam Heward... Is Sam Heward starting in Washington? That's what I'm interested to see. I thought that was I don't know what I was reading last night. You see, the problem, okay, much like you.
Yeah.
When you read in bed, you don't retain a whole lot.
You're half dreaming.
Like. Yeah.
You're half dreaming.
I don't think so. But we've talked about Sam Heward on this show before.
I want to say that he is, That's what my instinct says, but you've got the good old Google machine over there.
Yeah, I think it is. I think he is their number 2, if I'm not mistaken. I can't sit here and search it now. I'm too distracted. But I'm pretty sure that Sam Heward's their number 2 quarterback, which means that he's one snap away from being their starter, which he likely will be before this season's over. Cody Strickland says, we get enough catfish listening to Jake's love life. Yes, you do.
Yeah, you're damn right you do.
Yes, you do.
You're right.
Josh Lovren said, Utah just gives up 3-score leads to Washington State, though, most every other year it feels like. There is a frustrating game every year for every team. Usually for BYU, it's Utah. Usually for Utah, it is Colorado. Like, they'll win. I mean, how many of us remember going to Stanford and winning? How many remember sweeping Arizona? That USC coming to Rice-Eccles to die. Like, Utah's ready for those big games. It's just you run into a buzzsaw in Washington State. That's a great point.
Yeah.
That's a great point, It'll be interesting. No, Josh, okay, let's be very clear.
Yeah.
Sam Heward is not starting at Washington, but my point is, I think before the year's out, he's got a really good chance to be the starter. And when I don't remember what day we were talking about it, but your last name's Heward, you're at Washington, It's a matter of time.
Yeah.
It's a matter of time. With that lineage and DNA, come on. I think it'll be very interesting. When you run low on the play cock, nobody wins.
I mean, that's a great point. That's a great point.
That's exactly right. Great move by LSU enforcing vax protocols. How do you guys feel about this? This, to me, is really interesting. Basically, most stadiums now are saying, if you want to get into a game, you're going to have to prove that you're vaccinated. And for me, I mean, basically they're saying you have to have a PCR test that's negative within the last 72 hours, or you have to be fully vaccinated.
It's an antibody cocktail.